All right, guys, Sam back with you here. It's Monday, January 6th, and next up, by request, right, as I always remind you, we poll the members, let them choose what gets reviewed. Of course, all the majors, there's a lot of interest here. So next up is Ethereum to the dollar. I've got a 60-minute here on Coinbase Pro. Now, so this is a 60-minute chart. Now, it's very tempting to get kind of lost into what we see here and lose track of the bigger picture. So while you look here and you can start to maybe make a case for some bullish development here, you got to keep some perspective here. So if I take this back out to a 4-hour and we just look at where we are here. So we got a couple of things right off the bat. So just staring you in the face, right? So we got this nice big low volume node here that's in conjunction with these prior swing lows here. So potentially now we've got some natural resistance, prior support now potentially offering that resistance, and you can see the low volume node supporting that. So we don't have market acceptance here, thus rejected. So the potential is there for us to kick up here. Now, in addition to that, we got to look at a fib pull. So get right on there. We'll go down to our low. So look how that lines up. Now, is this, as to where we are in the count here, I'm not really trying to make that case as much as I am. Here's a significant pivot, dominant pivot to dominant pivot. We're coming right up into the golden zone. So, right, not, it's much like Bitcoin. This is good. These are good signs here. There's potentially a bullish count developing here, but we got a lot of work to do, because as soon as we break that one, we got to check this one. We got to break that one. So you take it back to the dominant here from this three-way before we start down. Now you've got additional resistance you're going to have to get through. So now we tee that up back one pivot, and it puts us right at the 50. Right here with this prior, again, as I just went through. So you've got, if we kick here and you break the 50, so wait a minute, we still have the possibility of kicking up here to the 618, and that being the pivot before we head back down to resolve. All right, so yeah, this is good. This is good. If you're long here, this is good news. But we're just premature to say, oh, the low is in. Right? I mean, for that low to be in, this is just the kind of price action that we need. But we got a long way to go before you really lean into that as a hard low. Right now, we're just coming up to where the natural resistance you're going to anticipate. So to get through that, well, that's going to be very bullish development, but we're just not there yet. So these two, even if even just on a quick, if you just looked at it real quick, you could probably make a case that there's something there. If I go up, so you can see it a little better here. Let's go up. We'll go big here. So, right, how do you? I mean, you can't eliminate that, right? Regardless of what precedes it, right? So this here, we get a clear ABC here. 1, 2, 3. Until we break that, we break through this golden zone. It is very hard not to anticipate that this is question mark. We'll see about that. So where that put us at $40. All right. So this, right, that's going to be in play until this 65 is broken. So, just approach with caution here. If you're buying up here, you have to know what's there. You can't just see, that's what I meant by where I started. You come back down here, you're down on a 30-minute and you're grinding it out down here and you're working these little swings here. You can't lose track of where you are. So at the very least, have it on that chart. So so if you're thinking, oh, okay, I got it. We got one more kick up here. You better know that 50 is there. Right, because that is going to, well, not only do you have the 50, but you have that natural resistance here that's going to kick in. So, right. So I'm a Ethereum bull. I'm long. I'm holding this. Just approach with caution here. We are not out of the woods yet, not by any means. So right now, you could look at this and say, okay, where are we coming off of that low? Well, there's a couple of different scenarios. We could certainly make the case here that we've got an impulsive structure here, right? I'm not discounting that. But so what are the options? So given what I just took you through, whether it's here or not, right? Whether that's the low or this is the low, this is an impulse, okay? We've got a clear, clean, defined with all the good subdivision. We've got a clear impulsive structure. So it's either a 1 or an A. All right, if it's a 1, well, 1, 2, and we're going to need an impulse here where it's not there yet. And this, as you see up here, this is topping action. This does not look impulsive. So this straight rip down here, we've got a couple of choices. Well, so we can have an ABC. Now we've been through this a couple of times. We have we have to allow for this truncated fifth down here. There's just no other way to finish it. You just can't finish it without allowing for that. So already you're allowing for an abnormality there. All right. So first, just point of caution. So ABC, or could just be that it's the A wave, B wave. So we have a couple of scenarios here, and they're not radically different. This could be an ABC into a W, ABC into an X wave, right? So this would be ideal for an X wave, right? As I've mentioned before, Elliott Wave International wants those to go 90% or more. So we can get a little kick. We can go beyond the pivot here, whether this is an expanded flat or an X wave. But it's still, if it's A and we're in a B, we're still expecting the C, regardless of whether it's ABC or WXY, right? So it's essentially the same idea, right? So here, labeling is not as important. So the idea would be here, we'd be doing something like that would be corrective. So thus the idea of an expanded flat, certainly a realistic possibility. Now, right, we've got, remember, all algos on both sides. So if I work from my absolute lowest low here, if I can get right on that. So we pull up here. All right, so it looks very much like Bitcoin, where we didn't quite make the golden zone. So we have this little kick down here. And again, hard to know, hard to be able to identify, well, why, right? I mean, we do have the forking in the background with Ethereum. So it could just be there's a little FOMO here. So A coming down, or ABC into a W, ABC, well, of course, so this, you got to be conscious of where that target is here. So this could still be up here. This X could go that high. I hate that about TradingView. We still could have that. All right, so this algo, right, they're bought here, is going to stay long until they get here. But what are they going to run into? They're going to run into this algo, who will stay short until we break the 65. So you got a kind of a conundrum up here. This is just, whoever... Right, wherever there's more volume, more buying interest, this is going to be there's going to be stops up here, right? So this is already, it's kind of interesting here. So we've had any stops that were sitting there have already been tagged here, right? That's the FU coming back down, back again, right? So if you had a little more room, if you knew to give it to the 50, right, there will be a push to try and get up and go get those stops. Right, so they know they're there, right? They're going to be right there at that 50. There's going to be stops there, right? If you were short off of something here, maybe you took the short here thinking this is a front run on the 50. Right, got to get through those. So if we don't, it's because it looks like we could be rolling over here. This is not, right now we can make a case for a completed C wave here. If it's ABC, even with this little, I'm on a 30-minute. Let's see if we can get down there here. Even this little fifth looks like it can complete. It's kind of it's a squirrely diagonal here. So you'd have to go 1, 2, 3, 4. Now that's mighty deep for a 4, right? I acknowledge that. Then we go up and we finish for the 5, but it's technically, right? We don't break the 2, so it's a contender. What's the alternate here? That we go A, B, C. Pardon me. So we'd have, maybe we could look at it this way. If this is going to have more legs in it, maybe this is your diagonal 1, 2. So we as of right now, we're still in an impulse, right? Because we're working 1, 2, 3, 4. So could we get a diagonal? Actually, let's do it this way. Could we get a diagonal here? Could this be? You could make that case that's 1, 2. We don't want this. So if this breaks here, that's going to eliminate that 3, 4, and 5. Now that's way too big here. So let me get that. Let's get down here to something I can work with. Okay. 1, 2, 3, 4. The depth of that makes me suspect of this as the pivot. So I like it better as a 1, 2, 3, 4 failure in the 5th, right? So you could have this. 1, deep 2. I think the symmetry here is a little better. Neither of them is it particularly great. So could we have just bumping into a failed 5th here, or we call it a double top? Right. This is very deep, even in a diagonal. So if we take the start of the proposed 1 wave here, now we've come all the way to this almost to the 786. Now that you got 1 wick down here on a 30-minute that likely running stops there. Boom, up they go. Could that be the failure of the 5th, or are we in a 1, 2? Well, if it's going to kick one more time, it better get busy and do it, because this is starting to look like it's rolling over here. So take note here. So this we get a failure swing here, so we get a lower high. Now, if we get a lower low and this starts to come down here and we break out this low, well, then that invalidates this count here. Oh, well, pardon me. It wouldn't necessarily invalidate, but it would confirm that this was a significant, so this is a failure swing. So we start to come down now. Where's the natural support? Right there. Right, you can just look at it. Right? So, right, that's why you want to wick these waves off. So we have this natural line of prior resistance here, which likely kicks back in for some support. So regardless of how this ends up finishing, if there's another kick or not, boy, it's too soon to declare that the low is in. So let me pull back up to a 60-minute and see if we can put some structure to it. Here's the other thing. So this is another thing to consider. So let me pull this out here. Okay, if we start to buckle here and we start to come down here, then you're gonna really be leaning into this more as a corrective structure. So anticipating that, this is gonna need to start to get some traction here to confirm that that low is in. So we're gonna start to be looking for something like that coming down here. So as I had it drawn before, clearly this has been some resistance here. So we need to kick through that here to confirm this pivot and this pivot here. Because right now this still is very much a contender for a third, and we're just putting in the fourth. Now, one thing I did note here, just to kind of shore up the idea that we're running out of steam here. Now, last week here I had drawn this, let's get you right here. I had drawn this median line this way. Right? I'd use the absolute low here last time I did this, and we'd come up this way. Right? So we're falling over here, so failure to make the median line. But an astute member of mine had me look over here, and isn't that interesting? So we go back a pivot. This is actually a tick lower. It's slightly lower, but as is always the case with median lines, there's a little bit of trial and error to see what the market is responding to when you have dual pivots like that. So this, right? So with that, we see here's our 80% already realized, right? And we continuing, but as we fall away from it, that's a sign of weakness. So if we can't get one more kick to the median line, as this seems to be holding the market rather nicely. If we can't get this kick, now look where that would put us here. Right, so now we'd start to be invalidating the X as we get that far from the W. Now we're in a very low probability. So, where are we going here? This will be the tell. Right, what happened? Is there another kick here to support the idea that we're staying with an impulsive move off the low? It's just not there yet. So if this starts to come down, then you'd be thinking, okay, whether it's A, B, C, or W, X, Y. Right. So as I noted before, I would have this set of median lines on somewhere. Again, if you have a quad split here and you're looking at different time frames, somewhere I'd have that so you don't lose track of it. It's easy to do it. So you say, okay, well, there's median lines there, right? So and then you do something like this. Say, oh, well, maybe we've got an additional set of median lines here, right? Which we do, of course, right? So then you start looking at that, and you lose track of the first one. So I guess all I'm just trying to say is you can't. They're always going to be there going both directions. So just like the algo pulls. So you got to keep track of them so you don't go, oh, I forgot that. Right, that's market will do that to you. So, all right. So with this, so we have potentially now we've got a double top here. So this is a corner pocket, right? Potentially now, if that pivot holds, this 80% in play. And then now you factor back in what we had before and the idea that this is starting to drift away from the median line. Let's get this one tightened up. Right, so this is going to be interesting, right, to see which way this goes. Now, keep in mind that bulls are getting excited about Ethereum at 150. Just think about that for a second. Right, so long way to go. So there should be no fear of missing anything. There is so much potential upside if. Emphasis if the low is in, there is so much upside here. There is no need to jump into something here where we have this lack of clarity. Could be this, could be that. We need to eliminate some of these. And right now, see, as far as I'm concerned, this looks to me like path of least resistance is down, because this does not look like, it looks to me like we finished something up here. This is not looking impulsive. We don't have trend here. We have lack of trend. And we have a failure. We have failure swings, right? So we've had this failure swing. We've got a failure to make the median line. Now we're falling away. Now, of course, we could come right back to the lower edge. So we could come down here to this edge and then kick one more time, right? And we stay within the structure of those median lines. So that's there as a contender, but we cannot yet go 1, 2, 3 because this isn't long enough. And this is not a clean impulse. We've got a 1, 2, 3, 4, but this part here, unless there's a big kick here and it better come soon, it's going to be hard to make a case for this as a 3, 4, 5. I'm looking at it, seeing if there's something I'm missing here. So this is, let me clear some of this off here so you can see it. All right, so let's get these. Here's the conundrum, because if you wanted to go, so I'll take that off. If you were thinking, oh, I see it. Oh, it's 1, 2, 3, 4 going in and 5, right? So it would be easy to, let me clear some of this up. It would be easy to think that, right? Oh, there's my 3, 4, 5. Well, got a little squirrely here, or maybe the 5 is over here. We got a truncated 5th into the 3rd. Well, already, just think about that, right? Truncated 5th into the 3rd, not what you'd want to see for the 3rd. I mean, not that it's never happened before, but that's not the kind of price action you'd want to see. And again, is this the 5? Is this, do we have an ABC? Well, it's not a diagonal, so that doesn't play. So unless there's another kick here, this is going to start to look like it's rather top heavy. So, but this is the point I was trying to make. You can't go 1, 2, 3 yet. Right? You're thinking, oh, okay, well, there's the 1, there's the 2, right? We're not 100% yet. So I don't have a qualified 3rd here yet. So what do you do with it? So I think, so if you're looking to get on the long side, boy, I would just be waiting, because this, boy, unless you're allowing for this truncated 5th to call that the 3rd. Look, so here, so if this is, it just doesn't work. If you were trying to go 1, 2, okay, so you could make the case here. I guess you could make that case that you had a 3rd here with a diagonal in the 5th of the 3rd with a truncated 5th. Already, right? Just saying it out loud sounds like, I don't know, man. Are you stretching there? Right? So this, it just doesn't look. You want to see that kick higher. You want that kicking up to and blowing through that 5th. So here, that is not. That just doesn't look bullish, right? I don't know how else to slice it. That just doesn't look particularly bullish. So when you're in doubt, I'd wait. Do we get this? If we do, well then of course you could make the case here. We got to look at the length of the 5th to the 3rd. Remember, 3rd doesn't need to be the longest, just can't be the shortest. Right now, 1 is the longest. So if you get a 4, 5 here and you hold this, okay, so think about that for a minute. If this is 1, 2, and this ends up being a 3, 4, well, we're going to overlap the 1. So now it has to be a diagonal. So now it still doesn't really play as a 1, 2. We'd have to have, this would just be the 1 wave of a larger degree, right? I don't know if I confused you there. But if this is 1, 2, and we end up with a diagonal here in green, well, then that has to be a 1, right? Can't, because we have to have an impulse in the 3rd. So so if this is coming off the low, if we're going to go 1, 2, and we're going to get this kick up here to give us this completed count here, and we're going to come back down and go up again, and we get this wave shorter than the first wave. So the 3rd would not be the shortest, so the 5th would have to be the shortest, right? Because it has to be shorter than the 3rd. So you can measure that, right? Same thing. You would want to have this somewhere, so you'd take the length of the 3rd, if that's the 3rd. Right? We don't know where it is, but I'll just use that as the pivot. And we get a 4 down here. Well, you got to keep track of where the 5th is relative to the 3rd to know whether or not you're invalidating, right? Would the 3rd be the shortest? Then that cannot be the 3rd. So maybe the 3rd would have to be up here. Then you got to rework through this count, saying, okay, well maybe if this is done here, this is 1, 2, and I've just got the 1 going in of the 3rd. So the 3rd would need to be much higher. So this would have. One day, TradingView is going to fix that. So this would have to be 1, 2 going up for the bigger 3, right? So at risk because we have to have an impulse there. So hopefully that didn't confuse you too much. So I would be really, I don't see a trade here. If you were just looking at this today, you were not in the market, I don't think you've got enough here to lean into. It's just too iffy. Could go either way. So why? Why force a trade here? Let the thing clarify. Let's eliminate some possibilities. If this moves down below some of these critical swings, we can eliminate some possibilities. We just can't do it yet. Plus, with Ethereum, with the volatility in the background, the fork, I don't know that I'd be chasing anything in here. It's just me personally. All right, so with that, I droned on for 20 minutes. All right, so it's all encouraging, right? This is bullish action, but as I said before, it's too soon to break out the bullhorns. All right, but good signs. All right, guys, that's it for now.